How's it going, guys? Sandris Sedis here, and I really didn't want to make this video, but many of you guys have asked me, and I have seen a lot of confusion on the internet regarding this lift, and a lot of confusion in the comments as well. So let's once and for all find out what the fuck is going on in this lift and what exactly are we lifting. To do that, we need to look at a couple things. First, we need to look at physics. Second, we need to understand the mechanics of the arm. And third, we need to look at human anatomy and anatomy of the arm in particular. So let's find out how the physics of the arm actually work. I have the simple example here. It's called lever arm, where we look at wrench and the applied force to the wrench and in what angle the force is applied. So as you can see here, the maximum torque is produced when the force is perpendicular to the wrench. So like here, here's the force, the wrench, perpendicular, and the maximum torque is achieved in this angle. If we look further, we can see when the torque approaches zero, with the angle between the force and the wrench handle, torque and the force applied to the lever, to the wrench, is also approaching zero. Same thing applies if the wrench would be in 180 degrees and we would apply force on the end of the wrench. In that case, also the torque achieved would be zero. We also have a torque calculation tool here, torque calculator if you will, where you can put in numbers and angles and applied force, and you can see what torque is produced or needs to be produced to move the weight. So let's just keep things simple. 100 as of 100 kilos. Let's imagine that the lever length is 1 meter, and let's just put 90 degrees for the point of reference to see what happens. As you can see here, at the 90-degree angle, the weight is equal to the required torque to move the weight. So if there's 100 kilos, at 90-degree angle, we are lifting 100 kilos of weight. Now let's look at angle if it decreases. What happens? Let's just say, let's put like 10 degrees. Now the weight stays the same, but the torque, required torque to move the weight, is only 17. Almost 10 times less force is required to move the weight. Now let's look at the angle in which Michael did the lift, about 170 degrees or so. Same thing. Let's change to 75, 8, and 70, 17. So basically in this lift, at this angle, you'll lift about 15, 17, maybe 20 kilos max on your biceps. So now let's imagine that this is your humerus bone, this is your forearm, and here is the biceps. So at 90-degree angle, your biceps has to apply 100% torque to move the weight. At 170 angle, so something like here and here, it would have to apply like 17-20% to move the same weight, because the weight is moved not by your biceps but by your surrounding connective tissue, by your shoulder, by your lat, because the bicep is stretched out and there's no force on the muscle itself. All the force is going into your forearm, into the shoulder, into the bone basically. So that's how it works. Now let's look at another study. Here's an example. Straight arm, 45 degrees from the bottom, 90 degrees and 150 degrees at the top. At bottom of the rep, 0 degrees, we can see that load hanging from the hands imposes tension down the length of humerus and ulnar radius. There is no external moment arm between the load in the hand and the elbow, so the force of the load is not multiplied. So there's no force on the biceps. Next example, we can see that at 45-degree elbow flexion, as you start to lift the barbell, the external moment arm between the load in the hand and the elbow joint begins to increase. So pretty logical, right? Next one, 90-degree angle, the external moment arm between the load and the elbow is now at maximum, as is magnitude of the force imposed by the load on the levers of the arm. The force applied to the forearm is pure moment, with the moment around the elbow joint still trying to extend the elbow. So what we can learn is that at 90 degrees on the biceps, the force applied is 100%. And then we can see if the angle goes up, the same thing happens, the force on the biceps decreases. There are many of these researches you can find on the internet. It's no rocket science, guys. You just need some common sense to optimize your training. Here is another example of torque and elbow flexion, how they correlate between themselves. So as we can see, this is unsupported exercise. As we can see, when the elbow degrees of the elbow flexion increase, the torque generated by the elbow flexors is increasing as well. It peaks around 90 degrees, as we can see here, right about in the middle, and then after 100 degrees and 120 degrees it decreases rapidly. Now let's look at how our pronator is engaged with the elbow flexion. So this is maximum pronation torque for elbow and forearm angle. We want to look at neutral arm position because we are arm wrestling mostly like this. You will never actively pronate in the match. You'll just go here and your pronation is static. So if you look at the graph, neutral position, here's the line with the square. In 135 degrees, the torque generated by the pronator, or torque needed to move the weight at this angle, is about in the middle of 11 and 12 Newton meters of torque. And as the elbow angle decreases 90 degrees, you can see that the torque needed increases not a lot, but quite a bit. And for 45 degrees it also quite stays the same as 90. So after that the torque again decreases. What we can learn from this graph is that your pronator is mostly engaged and isolated in that 90-degree angle, or if you can get it even closer, it's even better for arm wrestling because you want all your angles to be close to your body. And now, to give you a descriptive example, guys, my colleague is gonna explain you and show you guys how all of this works in real life. How's it going, guys? So we have our setup right here, strap with a loop, and down there I have 96 kilos, 4 20-kilo plates, 115 and a bar underneath, about 1 kilo or so. So yeah, let's try to lift it the way Michael did. So loop around the thumb, around the wrist, like so, and basically just pull back and lift the weight.
Really? And reps? What?
Something like that. I think the angle was pretty close to what Michael did. So as you can see, first time trying this, and it's not even that hard. It's just uncomfortable because of the strap digging into your wrist. And you're like not even using your hand to hold the weight. You're just using the wrist, so the strap digs into your wrist and you don't even need to hold it. So it's like doing deadlifts with the straps, you know. It's just not necessary. So this demonstration directly mimics what I mentioned before. Basically, your angle fails about here, your pronation fails about from the start, and from this point you're just pulling with your lat, and pronation you can just use your shoulder or just roll with the whole body. You're not isolating the pronator in any way, and the strap doesn't put any pressure on your pronator because the angle of the strap is linear to the forearm, almost parallel to the forearm. And in order to put more pressure on the pronation and biceps, I'm going to show you how you should do this exercise correctly. So now let me show you guys how you should do this exercise. First of all, you have to take much less weight. So take your 1 RM, your 1 rep max, what you think you can lift, and take 3 times less than that. So my max is about 60 kilos right now, not in best shape, you know. So I will work with 20 kilos and you will see how hard it is. So first of all, you have to make the strap way longer to even be in the center of the table. Around the wrist. There. So this should be your starting position. You can even put the cable lower, because you can see now my angle is not really 90 here, but it will be. So this should be your starting position. Here 90 degrees, and you can even do it like this. 90 degrees here is acceptable to activate more those forearm flexors, that biceps, you know, to isolate the biceps a little bit more in that 90-degree angle. So basically now you just lift the weight, pronator engaged. If the weight is too big, you're just gonna start to opening up like this. So the weight should be small, because pronator it can get tired pretty quickly. So lift the weight, 90 degrees here, put it back. That's it. While keeping the pronation engaged, you can also do it like this, with a bit of static biceps and active pronation. And it is already burning my pronator and biceps, because you have to control the weight throughout whole movement. You don't swing the weight, you don't do rows, you do what you're supposed to do. So the starting position as well is as close to arm wrestling competition as possible. Lift. And also don't rush. Put it down, get in the starting position, lift, hold, put it down. Pause, put it down. Also, with the dynamic variation, you can do like this. Keep 90 degrees here. Here, you can do 90, you can do less, doesn't really matter. And now you can do pronation. Again, pause with every rep. That really burns the forearm and that pronator. brachialis as well, everything. So you see that with 3 times less weight, you get basically 3 times more pronator and biceps activation with this exercise, while keeping all your angles as close to arm wrestling, like match situation, as possible. So yeah guys, now you see that it's complete bullshit what Michael is doing, and please don't try to do it at home. Very much thank you to my colleague, very detailed and thorough explanation and examples of why this lift is absolutely stupid and it does absolutely nothing. As for Michael and his channel, it is very sad that he's publishing these lifts and showing them to public. In his own time, he can do whatever he wants, whatever lifts he wants, but please don't show them to the public, because surely many new arm wrestlers, many new arm wrestling fans watch his channel. He has more than 100,000 subscribers, so most likely what's gonna happen, these people will see this lift and think, oh, if Michael's doing it, maybe I should too. No. No, you shouldn't. What's gonna happen is they're gonna just lift unnecessary heavy weights in dangerous angles and they're just gonna get injured. It's not cool, it's not fun, you shouldn't be doing this. Thank you guys for watching and stay safe.
Really? And